Good morning, comic book fans. Welcome back to Comics in 5 Minutes. I'm your ever-loving host, Shorty. And today we're going to take a look at Watch Dogs Legion. This one is by Behemoth. And Ubisoft are involved as well, obviously. Behemoth have done some pretty interesting, some pretty cool things recently. There's not many I've bought. There's not many I've made it onto my own personal pull list. But I'm paying attention to what they do because in the same way that they're pushing boundaries and doing very unusual things with very interesting styles of storytelling, they also grab some licenses here and there. They did Hotline Miami, which I read a while ago, and as much as it was fun, I've never played Hotline Miami. I have no idea what the heck was going on in the video game. I have no idea if the storyline in the comic book added anything to that, if it was just derivative, or if it was actually going completely against type and maybe annoyed a few of the fans. I just don't know. All I could do is look at it individually. Thing about Watch Dogs is I've played all the video games. I know a little bit more about what I'm talking about. From the first one, where you basically had white man power trip with lots of unnecessary uber violence in the name of revenge, as opposed to actually doing good. You then jump to the second one with millennial hacker collective trying to get a website off the ground and also putting it to power. Basically trying to tear down patriarchy and overarching corporate control, doing graffiti tags and hosting parties. And basically, it felt way more fun and lighthearted. Kind of odd that there's as many murders as there was. That really seemed unnecessary. Third one, I think, towed the line quite nicely. Basically, which is what we're talking about, Watch Dogs Legion. It's set in London. There is a hacker collective again, which is cool, but it's literally anyone who could be part of it, including your enemies. You do enough right to convince them they're on the wrong side or that they should be on your side to start with. It's possible to get them to join in. I really like that idea. There's some issues with the storyline. Effectively, they have state police violence differentiated from private police violence, as if one is understandable, the other one is overarching control and overreaching control. And I think it could be handled slightly better. But for the most part, I enjoyed it. The gameplay loops were fun. The map felt a little bit restrictive, but we're not going to talk about the game. We're talking about the comic book. And what it does right and what it does wrong. And what it does right is it captures the feel of the game really effectively. You've got multiple POV characters. You've got a sense of recruitment going on. You've got events happening where the bad guys are going to try and get involved. And even like side characters who are to do with the bad guys, but not really part of the organization. And you've got nice little overlaps, which I really quite like. It kind of shows some of the gray areas of people willing to go along with not necessarily kind organization because it might do some good in the long run. It isn't just black and white. I like that they embrace that. I also really like the artwork. They do black goring rather than white, which I've seen them do a few times now, and I always really like it. The individual artwork goes for nice little shots of London. In fact, shots of people living in London, which are really effective. They do these from all manner of angles and all manner of distances, and they all work. They show life in a bustling metropolis, and it feels very English. Even if you didn't know set in London, although it clearly is, you would get a sense of that if you're aware of what London looks like, if you're aware of what England looks like. Internal shots of pubs and offices all feel very, very blighty. The close-up on characters are fantastic as well. There's a little bit with an action sequence where they throw some motion lines in, which I didn't think were particularly necessary. The scene itself was clearly supposed to be a snapshot of two moments in a fight, and they look brilliant. They show fluidity and motion. They even have some really nice posing for a combat scene. Really, really good. I felt like throwing in the motion lines was an unnecessary thing. Maybe it's just an artistic trick they're doing. I don't know, but it wasn't for me. The two things about it which I'm not a huge fan of. First off, the story feels like it could just be anything from the video game. It feels like this could be just a random side mission you pick up, maybe some DLC because it looks like it could carry on and they've put some time into some side characters. But if you're going to take something from one medium and put it into another, I think there should be a reason to do that. You should be doing something with it which you wouldn't see in the original medium. Look at the various iterations of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Each different one was rewritten to use the medium correctly. But it's not really the end of the world. Like I say, the fact that it fits in with Watch Dogs Legion is a good thing. So maybe going too far from it, maybe it would be problematic. Maybe I'm thinking, well, this doesn't feel like the video game. The biggest problem, though, and it's not a massive problem, but I feel like the dialogue doesn't feel like naturalistic in places. Not all the time. Some of the interplays are fantastic, but every once in a while there's a sentence that comes out and it just jars in my head. It doesn't quite work. It feels like it should have been two separate sentences to make two separate points, or they've used basically the wrong kind of words or sentence structure. After going over these sentences repeatedly in my head and saying them out loud, all I could think is they were trying to keep the sentences shorter so there's less writing on the page. But as much people do use contractions and they do short things when they're speaking, it's how people do talk. It feels like they were doing it to hit a word count rather than because it made the conversation make more sense. And it just didn't work for me. It didn't happen often. There's 3 occasions, 2 of which were particularly egregious, but the rest of the time it flowed nicely and it made me want to carry on reading. It made me want to check out what's going on. So that's a pretty good thumbs up from me. I'm going to come back tomorrow, though, with another review. Until then, look after each other, everyone. Stay safe.